Okay. Ideally, it should be the discussion between product owner development team. But assuming that this workshop is probably for the first time for all the participants here, so that is why I am proposing it. So if anybody has any different opinion, you can go ahead. No, what would be the length of the sprint? It depends on. All right. What else we can decide in this working agreement?
So in general, like if we go in the sprint planning, so there should be some like a health check kind of a mechanism. So while designing the product, we rely on feedback and the demos.
Mm-hmm.
What we can do as part of this, like definitely some questionnaire or the knowledge check, or what is your plan?
All right, question and answers. What if I say that we want uh, this workshop to be very interactive? It should not be that one person is speaking and everybody is listening. Are we in agreement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Why I'm doing this activity? Because when we start working on any product, these kind of things are required, and we when we do something, we don't forget easily, and that is why this whole workshop I'm going to run in a Scrum way as a product development, and this kind of learning is called immersive learning. Basically, you don't just listen to somebody, but you do something again and again, and it becomes a part of your behavior. All right. So if anybody has any other point to tell me here, you can go ahead. Or I'm going for definition of done. What do we understand by definition of done? Okay, let's say I'm working on this story. I start working on what is agile. I explain it and it is done. But uh, maybe someone of you here, they can have a different opinion or different understanding about done. Somebody can say that until unless all the queries are not answered or we did not have an interactive discussion, it is not done, right? Yes or no? So different people can have different opinions or different assumptions on when we can call anything is done, right? So it is again very important to decide when we can call something is done. It happens in our software development as well. Somebody can think that once the story is developed, that means it is done. Somebody can think, no, it is not yet, the reviewed or the peer review did not happen or the integration did not happen. So we cannot call it done until unless it happens. Or maybe the somebody can say that until unless it is not tested and we are not able to run it on the test environment or the staging environment, we cannot say it is done. So even in the team, people can have different understanding, and in order to avoid that the variety of understandings or any kind of conflict about when we are going to call anything as done, a definition of done is essential. Everybody should be on the same page when we call anything is done. So about any story we are going to cover here, what should be a definition of done for that? Maybe it is okay, it is discussed, all the queries answered. Anything else coming to your mind? All right. So we are going to work on the sprint length of 3.5 hours each. And these are our stories which we are having in our product backlog. All the requirements always goes to product backlog. Now, you can see few numbers here. Can anybody tell me what are these numbers? Any
Number of
guesses?
number of people who are managing a task.
So, well, these are not number of people. Any
Number of
other thought? So, have you heard of story points? So, story point is a new term for everyone, or we know about it?
So story points are more like the efforts required for completing a story, and this weightage can be defined. Means it can this story point can be calculated on hours or rather days, basis on how the Scrum Master give them a weightage. But this is definitely
Okay.
driven through the complexity of the story.
So, I would say partially correct. Yes, the effort required in any story are represented by these numbers called story points. But yes, they are not related to time or hours or number of days. So we are going to talk about this topic in detail when we will cover the estimation. Okay. Till then, I think this much understanding is enough that these numbers are basically showing the size of the story or how much work is required in this story. They are the relative sizes. Now, when we are going to start sprint one, think of the real scenario in your development environment. You are going to start a sprint one. How do you decide that how many stories team can deliver? Do you have any kind of estimation or something using which we can define? Okay, so
Sorry, are you asking about estimation techniques here, Pratik?
no, I'm not talking about any specific estimation technique. My question is that if we are starting sprint one, how do we decide that how many stories team should pick? How should we decide?
Okay, and do we have the team size and this sprint goal clear? Then accordingly we can do.
Yes, so sprint goal definitely would be there. But before sprint goal, we based on the capacity of the team or the velocity of the team, basically we decide that how much work.
Just a quick feedback here. So probably
Mhm.
like I think the terms that you are using right now with respect to agile, I think the people have who have already been some kind of background in agile. I think it's easy for them to absorb. But I think before we start this, it would be helpful if you can give a brief definition, like basic terminology of agile, so that like people can connect with the whole story.
Hmm.
uh, I mean, I'm not sure about others. Maybe like others can also put their thoughts on.
Okay. So the thing here is, currently we did not even start the training. The training I'm going to start here, but till now I'm just, if we are taking this training as a product, so I'm just doing all that activities, what we should do in our working environment before starting the product development. So the purpose behind doing it, that rather telling the definition or something, we are definitely going to talk about each and every definition and whatever I have written here. But before that, uh, I just want everybody to understand that how we start our sprint one. Okay, so that is the purpose here. Any specific question around anything? If you don't, if you're not understanding anything, okay. So let me brief. If we are starting sprint one, so I know I took some names like capacity, velocity, and these things. So the thing is, when we are starting our sprint one, we don't have any velocity to consider. We don't have any information from the previous sprint because this is sprint one. And rather deciding anything, we basically prefer to measure for initial couple of sprints. We try to measure that how much work team can actually deliver, and that information basically becomes a baseline for our upcoming sprints. So because this is sprint one, I don't have any data to tell that how much stories we can deliver. Also, with this team, we are, in this group, we are working for the first time for this kind of product. So we don't even have any experience to decide anything. So in first sprint, we are going to take a couple of stories based on our assumption that maybe these three stories we can deliver by the end of this sprint. Are we okay with this?
Yes.
Okay, so right now all the stories are sitting in the product backlog. Now where they will go?
In progress.
They will actually go to our sprint backlog now. This is our sprint one. So we decided, okay, let's start working on these three stories in this sprint. And by the end of the sprint, we will see that, okay, what is the collective capability of my team? How many stories we can actually deliver? Okay, based on that, that data will help us to plan our sprint number two. But right now, we don't have any such data. Now, during the sprint, how would we know that we would be able to complete everything or not? Well, for that, teams create the burn down charts. Is it a new term for us, or we know what is burn down chart? So basically, a burn down chart tells that how much time is remaining and how much work is there. So here we are measuring the work in terms of story points. So how many story points we have taken?
16.
16?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have taken 16 story points. Sprint length is 3.5 hours. That means we can divide it into, maybe this is,
Slightly over 4.
sorry,
Slightly over 4 per hour.
1.5 to 2.5, 3 and 3.5. Okay. And if everything goes fine, this line ideally should come like